The New Hampshire primary was held on Tuesday with results halting the presidential runs for Republican candidates Carly Fiorina and Governor Chris Christie. Donald Trump won 35% of the vote, with Ohio Governor John Kasich surprising most with a second-place finish. Shocking no one, Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders defeated Hillary Clinton with 60% of the vote. Patty, the pollsters had New Hampshire right. We kind of knew this almost a week ahead of time of the way they thought it was going to go. I didn't know that we would have both Christie and Fiorina out by now, but as the dust has settled from New Hampshire, what's your takeaway?
Well, my takeaway is I hope we don't remember what our predictions were last week, but I was talking to Penn on our way in. Never have I been glued so much to the television because this is fascinating. It is great to see the political pundits, including those at this table, the pollsters, and the parties shaken up so much by what's going on in the Republican Party with Trump, what's going on in the Democratic Party with Bernie. People are paying attention to politics who have never paid attention before. So that's all to the good. It's just kind of hard to see who are going to be the ultimate candidates at this point. Trump, I just heard, is going to watch his language for the rest of the campaign, as we will all be doing for the rest of his campaign. Now that he's in the Bible Belt, he's going to behave. Hillary, I think, is going to try to develop a personality for the rest of the campaign. I mean, when you see them strategizing to either stay in the lead or to try desperately to win a state, it's just incredible to really think we could not have predicted where we're going with this. And we're going to have all the action here this weekend because Bernie and Hillary are both here for the Jefferson-Jackson Day dinner on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. David, Patty alludes to the fact that we'll see both Clinton and Sanders here in Colorado, and we're already starting to see some ads. I frankly, they're pretty impressive ads from Bernie Sanders' campaign. Even though he was, people thought he was going to win New Hampshire, he's from New England. People thought that it was slamming for a long time for him. Can he turn this momentum into a more sustainable effort?
Yeah, because unlike, say, John Kasich, he doesn't have sort of just momentum. You know, I think Kasich said he raised $500,000 after his strong finish in New Hampshire. Bernie raised something like $8 million. So he's got a donor base which will be able to carry him all the way through. Kind of ironic that after he worked so hard and was much more successful than Mrs. Clinton was in convincing voters that he was the right person, they both end up with the same number of delegates, but maybe he knows a little bit what it feels like to work harder than other people, succeed, and then you have redistribution, which brings you down to the equality of someone who's not as good. Personally, I'm not that impressed with either. The candidate who came in fourth in New Hampshire was Vermin Supreme. I don't know much about him, but as a Democrat, I'm going to be looking for alternatives. I want to see what his platform is. On the Republican side, my prediction that Kasich could do well came true. Nobody predicted that the Saturday night Republican debate would be a murder-suicide featuring Chris Christie and Marco Rubio.
That, I believe, was one of the more shocking developments. Anytime anyone gets like the spotlight for the first time, like Marco Rubio did after his performance in Iowa, it might be a little bit of a trip, but that I think you put a very good point on that with the murder-suicide with Christie and Rubio. Penn, as you look at both Sanders and Clinton coming to town here in Colorado, and while our vote will be official, our caucus will officially be part of Super Tuesday on March 1st, do you think either candidate has a distinct edge in Colorado, or is it a toss-up?
You know, I think it's difficult to say, and it goes back to the point Patty made that I've been watching this cycle. Except for the first time when Obama ran, I think what's very different this time around is you have millennials who are really getting engaged, paying attention, and they're not apt to sort of signal and let you know in advance where they're headed. And so I think Clinton in this state probably has the organizational edge, but I'm seeing more and more stuff from the Sanders people, which surprised me because I didn't think he was very well known in Colorado, but he's beginning to pick up some steam. And you know, David's commentary notwithstanding, I think some of Sanders' rhetoric resonates with millennials, who as a generation are the most heavily indebted of any generation that preceded them. And they have the added distinction of watching their parents and grandparents be economically dislocated because of the recession we've been through. So these are folks who are questioning the status quo in a number of different ways. having said all of that, I still think the major shakeup is going to be on the Republican side. I thought for a while that Trump's path to victory was outlast everybody, be around long enough, and the field would winnow out, and he'd be the last person standing. I'm not convinced that that's the case anymore. I think what's happening is, particularly with Fiorina and Christie dropping out, the supporters there are more likely to gravitate to someone like Kasich than they will to Trump. So I actually think we may see his lead tighten or actually erode over time, because I think as more candidates drop out, there's going to be, I think, particularly from the Republican establishment, a desire to coalesce around someone other than Trump. And Kasich may be the lucky guy right now, because Rubio's imploding, Cruz is perceived as Trump light, and Jeb seems to be walking around confused for a lot of the time. So Kasich may be the beneficiary of this. It'll be interesting to see, though.
Natasha, I want to pick up on what Penn was just talking about with the Republicans. We've gone from a clown car to officially maybe a minivan, I guess is a more appropriate metaphor here. Are we going to see these 6 candidates for a while? Do you think there's going to be some more winnowing? And can Kasich turn what I think is what a lot of people would think is a big surprise win in New Hampshire into some more momentum, especially for like Super Tuesday?
I think you'll see a lot more momentum as we've narrowed those down. I think some of those voters are going to go. I think surprisingly a large number of those voters are going to go with him. But what the problem is because it's taken so long to narrow these down, even when you're watching that debate last weekend, you're not getting a real sense of where they stand versus last night when you were watching Bernie and Hillary, and you're really getting a sense of where these candidates stand on an issue. The GOP is still kind of a mess. It's, kind of introduce them, get their main points out, blah, 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 and we don't get any deeper than that. So because they've spent so much time in this larger group, I don't think the voters have had a chance to really assess who they are, and they're going to have to fast track that. And I think in the next 2 weeks in particular, we should start seeing really strong points, talking points from each of those candidates if they want to bring over some of those swing voters. If not, they're going to just remain that clown car smashed into the minivan and they're not going to have a good impact on the national race.